Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be recapping my last round game that I played in the Western Class Championships. Going to this round, I was at 2 out of 4, and in the last round I am playing with the white pieces against a 2016 rated player, slightly higher rated. So I'm just trying to play solid, get the tournament done with. I was fine with the draw at this point. So I just decided to play solid, and he plays Sicilian. And after knight f3, he goes knight to f6. And I think the reason for that is he doesn't want me to play this queen takes d4 variation. And I can't really do d4 right now. This is I think this is called the anti-queen takes d4 variation. I went knight c3, d6, he went d6, and I decided to go bishop c4. I could just go d4 right now. After takes, I could just go knight d4, and he could just play a dragon Sicilian. And I was totally fine with this, but I was assuming he prepped a lot for the dragon, and was probably expecting me to play into his dragon. So I decided to play a close Sicilian, bishop c4, because I thought, why not? It's the last round, let's try and experiment a little bit. Knight c6, castle, bishop g4, I put my bishop back, stopping the pin. After e6, I was contemplating this one idea of going d3 and just bringing my bishop out and playing solid. Also, I could help prep d4, go h3, maybe kick out his bishop. But then I see, wait, I could just play d4 immediately because everything's protected. And my idea was that after takes, if he took here, queen d4, bishop e2, knight e2, all these trades happen. I thought since I have slightly more space than my opponent that I should be slightly better, and that I could maybe go c4 and rook d1 and try to work against this break of d5. And also, after takes, if he took, I was going to keep pieces on the board and trade like this. Computer says black is slightly better, but I didn't really see the slight advantage here. I just thought this was maybe equal, and I could try to play with more space than my opponent yet again. But d4 is actually a blunder. It's a straight up blunder. I blundered a pawn, and I just literally, after I played this move, I forgot that my opponent can just take the knight first. And after takes, which is what I did, he took with a c pawn, and now I'm just down a pawn, and now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to switch to defensive mode. I'm gonna be on the back foot, and I'm gonna have to try to pull out a draw. After bishop f3, though, I was wondering why he did not take here, because after bishop, and I was gonna go bishop e3 if he did this, hoping after takes, bishop e7, I could go rook a d1 and just try to play with the more space that I have. But after bishop e3, I thought he had this move e5, just sort of cementing the knight here. But I can always just go g3, bishop g2, and I saw this idea of going knight e2 and try to undermine his knight c3. It wasn't the worst position in the world. Knight e2 goes queen b6, and I go c3. Again, like I said, it's not the worst position. I'm just gonna try to play with a little more space than I have than my opponent. He trades the pawns and goes bishop b7, rook b1, g3, and I wanna put my bishop back and maybe try to get a bishop e3 and try to work towards f4, gaining more space especially on the king side. And maybe in the future, queen e2, rook d1, I could try to go get e5. Just for you guys to visualize this better, I was trying to do this, f4, and get queen e2, rook to d1. He goes rook a c8, I just go bishop e3, queen d8, I go queen d2, and after knight b4, I see this interesting idea, and I immediately play it, which is e5. In the game, he goes knight f d5, but had he taken, I would have gone bishop b7, rook b8, and just gone back with my bishop to g2. And I see that he has an extra pawn, but it's this doubled e pawn. And I thought, okay, he can't be that much better now. And he saw all of this, and he went knight f d5. I traded the knights, I traded the pawns, and I went rook f d1, pinning the knight. and potentially taking it so that when he takes, like this happened the game, after bishop f6 b4, I tried to threaten bishop c5, and then I take, and now my idea was, since he took like this, now this pawn is isolated, and after bishop d4, I blockade the pawn, and even though he's up a pawn, it's this isolated queen pawn that can't really push, and it's more of a weakness than it is a strength. But black is still slightly better. Queen c6, I went a5, protecting my pawn. Queen c4, and now I see I have this move queen b2, putting some pressure on the king side, and now it forces him to trade the bishops. After rook d4, queen b5, I just go rook b d1, and now it's like this sort of equalish game where black is slightly better, but also not really, because this pawn is not really doing anything. Like, he can't really push it. He can't do anything right now. He goes rook c4 to try to like get me to take, which I do. But after rook d4 though, I'm just blockading this pawn, and I go rook g4, h4, all these moves happen. And as you can see, I'm still blockading the pawn. I still have a lot of pressure. And he does the right thing. He goes queen e1 check, and like trading off more pieces, and you'll see why later. The only move to defend this pawn is rook to d8. And now I was confident I was going to hold this game, because if like I could just shuffle my king back and forth. It's like this symmetrical position where black can't really do anything. He can't really move his rook. His queen can't really venture out that far. And as long as I keep my king just sort of defending my pawns, I should be totally fine here. And he goes queen e1 check, and he has a nice idea. I trade the queens, and now he go rook e4. He gets rid of this isolated pawn, but now he has this 2-on-1. And I'm gonna have to show a little bit of technique to hold this, but this game is like now a draw. It's a draw, but I have to be a little bit careful here. I go rook d7, and he can't really just do this rook b5 taking the pawn right away, because well, I can just take, and I thought I was gonna hold this because of the pressure I have on this side of the board, and that if his king ventures out too far, I could win one of these pawns and make my own passed pawn in the future. So after rook d7, he goes king g7, and after king f3, king f6, and these moves happen. I also bring my king to the center, and here he goes h6, and I can see his idea. He wants to go h6, and then go f6, and now his pawns are no longer on this 7th rank, and so I can't attack. So my rook is not attacking his pawns, and he wants to rush his king over to this side, win this pawn without having to lose this pawn, then push these two pawns and win the game. And he's banking on the fact that I'm not gonna be in time to win all these pawns and push my own pawns. So I go rook g7. I have to be quick at my counterplay. After g5, I go h5, and now I have this weak h6 pawn to target. He gives me a check and goes king f5. And here I was thinking I could just go rook g6. And I found nothing wrong with it, but I thought after rook b5, I didn't really want to take this pawn and go here. Although this is, as I see it now, it is holdable. But I didn't really want to do this and give him these two passed pawns. So I just went rook c7 here, keeping pressure on this b7 pawn. After rook b5, I just decided to go g4 check, keeping these kingside pawns intact. And for king f4, I have to do this check, getting the king out. And now I go rook c7, keeping up the pressure on that b7 pawn. He goes f5, trying to break up my structure. I do take, and go rook f7 check, getting him away from this pawn. And now I attack it. After rook a5, I decide to take this pawn. I can actually take this pawn and it's still totally fine, apparently. Like, I thought, okay, I'm probably losing, because he can just get to this pawn. Apparently he can't. Again, it's like these like really weird computer defenses that computer finds. I think it's something to do with bringing my king up and winning this pawn, while my rook stops his pawns, and I have these two passed pawns. Hopefully you guys got that. But anyways, I take this pawn. He goes rook b5. I go rook a7 and go rook b6, and then it hit me that I could actually lose this game, and I thought I was losing because I just didn't see a way for me to stop just bringing his king over and pushing his pawn. So I just went king e3, trying to activate my king in the process. He goes here, rook f7, rook f6, rook g7. I'm trying to keep this idea of rook g6 and in the future winning this pawn and getting material equality. Rook e6 check, king f2, and now he goes king e5. He's bringing his king over. I decided to activate my king over to this side, rook f6, and now I'm cutting him off. I don't want him to come over and try to push his pawn. He goes king e6. I go rook d8 to provoke him to go king e7, and now I go rook a8, and I'm threatening like this check, forcing him to go back, and he can't really go here because I'm actually have this check, and it's a draw. So he goes rook d6, trying to work his way around, but now I go king g4, trying to activate my king, king e6, and I go rook h8, attacking the pawn, king d5, king f5. I'm trying to get my king over here so that I can win this pawn, maybe in the future sack my rook for this pawn, and I would have already won this pawn, and I could just move my king and push this pawn, and it would be a draw. So he went king c5, and I went f4, trading off these pawns, because I didn't want him to accidentally win this pawn somehow by going like rook d4. Like, I was worried I'll somehow lose this pawn in the future, and then he'll have this g passed pawn. So I thought, let's just go f4, takes, a5, and now I go rook c8 check. He can actually just block, and I was gonna go here and just kind of hope that this is a drawn endgame, although it probably isn't after maybe something like rook c5, just attacking this pawn. But he actually blunders. He goes king d4 here, and the reason why it's a blunder because now I attack the pawn on a5. The only way to defend is go rook d5. He's now attacking my pawn, and now I go king g4, and it's a draw because he can't protect this pawn and this pawn at the same time. I have this threat of going rook a6, and if he tries to stop me from doing that, I just win this pawn. And he goes king c4, I go rook a6, and he offers a draw, and I accept. So I end the tournament at 2.5 out of 5. And anyway, it's not the worst tournament in the world. This was like a warm-up tournament for any future tournaments that I go to. And yeah, I faced some really tough opponents. These were some really tough games. And yeah, it's kind of sad that sometimes in the world of chess, as black especially, you can be up a pawn in the opening, get a free pawn, and only be slightly better. Anyways, that's all for today, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. Goodbye, everyone.